It's Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. in Switzerland and it's Space Café WebTalk time. Our Space Café WebTalk 33 minutes with Claudia Kessler will begin soon. Thank you for joining us for this very informative and definitely very inspiring talk today about more women to space for a future of Earth. And I'm not sure if we just lost.
No.
No. Okay.
Here I am.
Okay. As always, we appreciate your participation and your ongoing feedback. I'm Thorsten Kriening, your host today and publisher of SpaceWatch.Global. We are a Switzerland-based online platform for information in and about space and new space activities in a geopolitical context. I know many of you are already familiar with our website, our bi-weekly and daily newsletters, and the Space Café podcast. Our latest episode, number 16, was released last week on all major platforms and featuring Pamela Melroy, another super exciting podcast, trust me, worth to listen. We also opened our fan shop online for you, where you can support us actively and become a space watcher. Edition 1 has cool mugs, masks, awesome t-shirts, brand new reflecting backpacks, and more cool items for you, your friends, and the ones you love. Your support is needed to keep our work alive. For you. And it's still Cyber Week. If you missed any of our previous web talks, we have an archive available on our website in the event sections and on YouTube. We host our Space Café Web Talk live on a weekly basis, and this is already the 36th edition today. And I hope you marked Tuesdays in your calendar. I feel privileged to have one of the most inspiring space people in Germany as my guest in my show today. Claudia Kessler, welcome.
Thank you, Thorsten. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's tell the audience a little bit about you, and I really make it very short. A life dedicated to spaceflight, fascinated by the moon landing in '69. The then young Claudia decided that one day she too will fly into space. Claudia is an entrepreneur and visionary. She founded Astronautin GmbH in April 2017 to ensure the female future of astronautical space travel. She has a clear goal to get the first German woman into space by 2021. What is next year? Just to be precise. The new female astronaut will become an inspiration to encourage young women into technology professions. Claudia's goal is not only to bring the first German women into space, but above all, to make women stronger in order to help position them at the top of society and the working economy. She inspires the audiences in empowerment workshops with elements of astronaut training, personal coaching, and inspirational public speaking. Claudia is qualified as an aerospace engineer. She holds an MBA and has more than 30 years of experience in the international space industry. And once more, welcome, Claudia, to my show. Let's get started. Our invitation to the event today, we published your fictive story of an all-women crew by 2022 on a Dragonfly to the ISS. Why do you see that as a desired future?
Yeah, that's one of my big wishes, that we one day will have, and hopefully not too far away, an all-female crew on the space station. Because for us, it's actually quite normal, and probably most of you don't even realize that most of the times, or many times, we do have pure male crews on the ISS. Fortunately, at the moment, the ratio is 2 women and 5 men. So it's actually perceived as quite good with 2 women. I'm not sure that we sometimes had a 50-50 when there were 2 women and 2 men on board. Mm-hmm. But most of the time it's more men than women, or only also pure male crews on board. And I think it would just make a huge impact, a huge change if you would see this pure female crew in orbit.
I'm quite sure that you have the numbers at hand. What is the gender split of women and men in space, and are there differences by nations? I mean,
Yeah,
most
well,
nations did never send people into space, so
yeah.
there is no difference, of course, but for the ones that did.
Yeah, there are like 38 nations that have sent people into space, and the ratio is 560 something. I'm not sure, it's 567, I think, at the moment. I try to count every time there is a launch, but I'm always not sure if I'm up to date. And around 67 women. So it's about 500 more men in space than women in total that have been in space. The first female astronaut was, of course, Valentina Tereshkova from Russia. What surprises me always is that it took already 20 years after that until the first American woman flew into space. Also, that is a fact that most of us didn't realize, that it's really was in 1983 that Sally Rice was the first American. And until then, no woman, no other. I think there was a second Russian woman sometime after Valentina in the 70s. And then it was, in Europe, it was Claudia Kessler, and in the UK, what's her name again? Oh, yeah, it will come in a minute. And then in Europe, the only other woman was Samantha Cristoforetti.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there were 3 European women in space and no German woman, obviously. And in the US, it became quite regular after some time. They did a huge marketing campaign to attract women to the space program in the 1980s because they realized, maybe there's, Helen Sharman. Thank you, Audrey. Thank you. And Helen was actually on a commercial mission. At least it was started as a commercial mission. It was a competition by the Mars Corporation to win a space flight, and Helen was selected. And later on, it was made a government mission out of that. That was still to the Mir station. But
how's NASA, and you started with talking about it, how's NASA positioned today? Because it appears to me that they try to put a gender equality very high up on their agenda. So at least if we see the cadre that they have today, I'm not sure how ESA is seeing it. China, I think, putting also a bit of emphasis on it. So, the statement from the US was very clear: to have the first women, the next boots on the ground on Moon will be women boots.
Yeah, heels.
I didn't say that.
You're jumping anyway. You did. Only quickly. No, we even made this picture up one time already with the heel on Moon. No, but there was also China, I think, is putting an emphasis on it. NASA has put an emphasis on it already in the 80s. I started to tell that story, but they did a huge marketing campaign, not only for women, but I had to say it like that, but that's what it is. For women and minorities, it's often said like that, but women are no minority. We're 50% of the population or more. And to attract them to the space program. And they did this huge campaign with Captain Uhura from Star Trek at that time to really show female role models on all levels and to attract women to the space program. And that turned in a huge wave of applications, and also led to the fact in the end that now they have always more or less 50% in the astronaut crew. Canada, when they recruited new astronauts 2 years ago, they just recruited 2, but it was clear from the beginning that it will be 1 male and 1 female. So they also said no matter how many apply, it will be a team of both. There have been 2 Japanese women in space already. I think, I don't know even how many Chinese. I only know 1, but that was just the first one. I'm sure there have been more than that. 1 Korean, and then of course Anusha Ansari, who is also a great role model to all of us.
And coming back to the title, so why do we need more women in space for the future of Earth, as we titled our session here? Yeah,
I mean, it's about, you all, I guess, have heard of the overview effect, and the thing that spaceflight does to people when you get that view of seeing the planet as a whole and feeling part of the universe and feeling not only part of a country or a continent, but of the whole planet, and then communicating that. And as in many areas, men communicate different than women, and women often are able to communicate much more emotional than men and to communicate emotions better and feelings better. And this is a point that hasn't really been talked about or even taken into account. But I think spaceflight is also not only a technical and scientific endeavor, it's also a philosophical and even evolutionary endeavor for the humankind. And I think if we have more women flying into space, the way we communicate about it, and I mean, you know that from talking to female astronauts like Nicole Stott or others, the way they talk about it is much more emotional, moving than men who talk about the speed and the velocity and the technical stuff of it. And I think this will make a great difference.
I wouldn't countersign it. I mean, again, if you listen to the podcast with Pamela Melroy, I mean, she's quite focused on the hard facts, and I think there's no general answer to that. So the cases where we are in. But I think you raised a good point, and I would like to dig on that a bit. If we look on the exploration side, settlement on Mars, on Moon, and beyond, do we have today all the data that we need to understand our human body in space? Because when you say 1/10 of the bodies in space were just females, so then also the measurements, the data points we have are obviously male data points.
That's right. Yeah. No, we don't have any long-term data from women at all. I mean, compared to the long-term data that we have from men, we have longer missions, but not as long as the male missions or not as often as the male missions were. And of course, I mean, what is the statistics of 60 compared to statistics of 500? So actually, we don't have enough statistical database to send a woman to Mars right now and know that everything will be fine. I mean, the body of the woman functions different in many, many areas, like the male one, on ground as well as in space. And we are also working for the German astronaut with doctors who are especially focused on hormone research and things like that. And we found out, we didn't find any data on the influence of spaceflight on the hormones of the women up to now. So that's for sure a point where we need more data and more women in space in total.
And picking up on the Mars point, so what would you define the top challenge when we go to Mars as species? I mean, the level of isolation we trained all this year, I think. So, but what else?
Well, I mean, if we want to stay on Mars and build colonies on Mars, on the long run, we obviously settlements, not colonies. Yes, settlements on Mars, Mars cities, Mars villages, whatever. We obviously want to get babies on Mars at some point. This is maybe not in the near future, but in the far future, and we need to get prepared for that. And obviously, up to now, you need women for that. So we need to start. Of course, this will cause a huge ethical discussion as well. But at some point, humanity is there because that's what drives us as humanity. We want to go out there and explore and discover, and we will be there at some point.
Great. So,
we will have to start.
According to Elon, that's all easy. So next year we are on our way to Mars, or in 2 years. So, and I mean, good luck.
I think sometimes I think we lost a bit of our explorer DNA. I mean, if you think back some 100 years, they just would have, put a spaceship together and said, off we go. Don't know if we fall over the edge of the Earth or not. We're much more cautious these times than
I think the political responsibility increased a bit in the last centuries. Yeah. So, I mean, we can have an opinion on our local governments, but at least the responsibility for their humans should be there. So talking about
Yeah.
empowerment and I would say, yeah, it is a business or the mission you are on. So that sounds better. And let's come back to the inspiration for women and the empowerment of women. So what are current activities you do and you would point to? And not just referring to a quota or things like that. I think we should point it out very clear. That is
No,
not
I
an
mean,
ideal situation.
what I come across many times and came across in the past as well. For example, when I started the initiative to bring the first German woman into space, we opened the job announcement and said, look, we're going to recruit the first female German astronaut. And what happened is that women with brilliant careers took the phone and called me, read their CV to me and asked me if they are good enough to apply. And that's some of the things that we see and we have seen all through the project, that there are a lot of fantastic women out there, but they don't trust enough themselves. They don't trust enough in their strengths. They don't see how far they can get. And they have these limits in their own head. And we want to open that. We have, on the other hand, with Astronautin, made the experience that what it means to be brave, what it means to be things where everybody says it's impossible what you're doing and you will fail, and that many times, and still keep doing it, and still not knowing when it will happen and how long we will still have to fight for it, but just keeping on, staying optimistic, being afraid and keep doing it. And these are the things that we have developed trainings around, combined with exciting, lively astronaut training elements, where we will empower women to believe in their own dreams and to follow their own dreams, like we do for Astronautin, and we also do for the first, all-female crew at some point in time.
But your experience at the Astronautin you just mentioned, was that age specific, or is it Generation Z? Is it the current generation, the 18 plus or minus, or I mean, is that something what changes over the decades?
Not as much as I wished for. I think the younger generation is already stronger, but they also have their own doubts and their own, well, they all bring their beliefs from their education and the role models that they see with them. And if they don't see enough role models in boards of companies as well as astronauts, they just, I mean, sorry, but if we have still more more guys named Thomas than women at all in boards, it's just not, they're not visible role models for the young generations there. And the same is true in the space field. So we need to make women visible. We need to show that there are brilliant women out there in the engineering, in the science field. It's wonderful what you do with SpaceWatch.Café and with your podcast, where you showcase a lot of women in that area. But again, if we look to Germany, worldwide, they are there. And in the US, there are a lot of them. But in Germany, if you look into the space startup scene or something like that, I don't know. Can you name a handful of women there?
Yeah, we had Nicole Büttner on the AI side. And I mean, I have to think, but just referring on what, as you mentioned in our podcast, in preparation of our talk, I checked. We try to make a balance, for sure. But I saw on the podcast side we have much more women, we talk to than to men. Why? One of the points we like to achieve is we want to talk to interesting people, and we figured out it is in this small area where we are looking more women. I mean, we will talk to a science fiction author beginning of January. We will talk to a chess grandmaster in the next week, and so on and so forth. So, and then the next man will be a lawyer. So on the here in the Space Café, I think we are quite balanced. On Thursday this week, Moriba's Vox Populi will happen, run by Moriba Jah, and he has 4 women on his panel plus Thomas Schildknecht. So, and I think they are there. But let's talk one thing further. How do you? I mean, we see that, and I checked here our guests that are with us today, and the majority are women. So we have 4/5 women and 1/5 men. So how do you involve men in these initiatives, or will that women only initiative?
No, there are men out there who are supporting that as well. For example, in our team for the first female German astronaut, we had 50-50 almost. We had 2 men or 3 men and 3 women at some point in time. Supporting the whole project. And I think always, I mean, I'm a big fan of diversity in all areas. The more diverse, the better a team can be, because the more views on a problem you get, the more ideas you get together, the more inspiration you get, the more exchange. And even if it's hard sometimes to have different characters and different opinions, but I think it's always worthwhile to listen to everyone and to take every opinion and every point of view into account, because only then do you find the best solution. So I think, and of course, I mean, you at Space Café are a role model with the way you do it, with a lot of women and men and cultures and generations and everything. I mean, you are a really diverse forum here. That's not the case everywhere. I mean, if you look into other press news channels or whatever, also from the space field, which is always male driven, but also in other areas, it's not like that. So you are exceptional on that side.
Thank you. So just want to encourage our audience, please send your burning questions into the Q&A channel, and we're happy to pick them up. Or, I mean, you have now the chance to ask Claudia or anything you want to know. Until you have questions, I would like to come up with another one to take it one level up. So what can a global campaign look like that addresses equality and equality? Yeah. In gender, in race, in education. Because if we just do it on gender, then it's again polarizing, and we leave the rest behind. So how can that look like? How would you like to design it?
Yeah, I mean, astronauts and spaceflight is still the thing that is, let's say, the top of the top, the highest you can achieve at the moment. And so I think such a campaign, and I would like to do the first one on women, and then we can do others on other differences and diversities. But I still think that this campaign on recruiting 4 women from 4 continents to fly together into space, so you do have the cultural aspect and you do have the gender aspect in it. This could mobilize girls worldwide to get interested into STEM subjects, but also to grow in their own self-esteem, to look up, to have someone to look up. And I know from my own experience how proud it made me feel when I saw another woman becoming just a local president here in an organization in Bremen, but for the first time in 500 years. And so it was, for myself, it made me proud, and without thinking about it, I just felt it. And this is the effect that happens if something like that is there. You identify with the person and you feel proud yourself, and you trust yourself a bit more to step a bit higher and to fight a bit more and to get a bit more out of your borders. And that's what I think would happen if we would have this global first female mission. And I always see this picture in front of me where 4 women are in Florida with their helmets under their arm. Well, now they're not marching anymore to the rocket because they've driven in a Tesla, but still the last meters they would walk and they would sit in the spaceship and then also on board of the station. I mean, and I'm sure sorry, I know you're going to contradict Torsten, but I'm sure you will find men out there who would say, well, you sure they can manage to be alone on the space station, these 4 women alone? There are many out there who would say that.
I'm afraid you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even it's something I don't understand. But however, I mean, you said you would be proud. I mean, we have in Germany a chancellor for decades now.
Yeah.
Who's female. We had the last 2 presidents of the DLR have been women. So I mean, there are this. You asked earlier, where are the strong women in Germany? I mean, you explicitly asked about the space sector, but I think we can find them if we want.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to pick up on this question. Malaysia, hope I pronounce it right, sent in during the recent all-female spacewalk. Christina and Jessica saw it as their job, regardless of their gender. Should we not just empower everyone and make them aware of STEM and the space sector?
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you, and I would love it to be like that and to be more ideal. But I just learned through the 30 years of my career in the space field that it's just not there, and that it's very driven by men, and men do make, at least in Europe, the selection criteria for astronauts, and they do. And you have 80% men in the selection committees and things like that. So it's just not there. And they just say, yeah, women are not interested, or there are not enough women out there and things like that. They just don't try hard enough and are not open enough for it. And with regard to the spacewalk, yes, the second time, but the first time they didn't have the fitting spacesuit for the women. So they first needed to adjust the spacesuit, and that's another issue in space. And I just discussed that with actually Franzi, who is here today. I see her in the auditors, we just talked about the fact, Torsten, you were not able to name 5 female space startups. When I asked you 4, you came up with 1 name. You easily are able to name 5 male space startups, I'm sure, very quickly. Yes. It's a fact. And so that's why we talked about things that we might even change that, and how we can inspire more women to use space for their purposes, because I'm sure there will be a huge amount of applications out there that we haven't even thought about if we get more women into the game and into using it. And that's, again, of course, true mainly for Europe and Germany. It's different in the US.
So then we are still the old world?
Yes.
Not just for when it comes to venture capital and space startups, then also to maybe mindset?
Also on the gender mindset,
we have an aspirating designer in the audience, and I know she is burning for this question, what she can do as a designer which has an interest in space to do something in the space industry. So and if you want to generalize that, what are your 3 pieces of advice for the next generation of women?
Well, my first is definitely believe in your dreams and keep pursuing them, even if you come across hurdles, if you come across borders, if you come across people who say it's never been done and you cannot do that, just keep on going. Be passionate about what you do. And that's already the second, right? No, it's still 1? Okay. Good. The second is, be curious, ask people, try to network. I mean, network. I think it's, especially in the space world, if you one person, this person knows another 50 persons, and then you get in and you get connected. It's a small community. Don't be afraid by the space community. It still sounds so kind of overwhelming sometimes. Just knock on the door and everybody will be happy to support you, I'm sure. And that was the second. And the third one, be creative, come up with new ideas, come up with things that have not been done. come from the outside with fresh ideas, because sometimes we just do the same thing all over in the space world.
Okay.
Yeah.
How would your 3 pieces of advice change for young men?
I think they wouldn't change. Maybe the first one, maybe they don't need so much encouragement to follow their dreams. They just, at least the ones that I met, they just, if they want to build rockets, they just go out and build rockets, you know. And you know whom I'm talking about.
Certainly, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but I have on that point, I have to say, not every idea a man comes up with will come into fruition as well. So
Yeah, I mean,
no
but
guarantee
that's
for that.
no, but that's with all ideas, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I think it's a very exciting time in the space world right now to be here, and there are going to be a lot of exciting things happening.
I think what I'm taking is, and I really want to second it for the young people, young women are in the audience. Don't believe on this ivory tower. It's a myth. So people in the space industry are human like you and me. And I mean, yesterday in the German TV, there was this report about Alex Gerst. He is the super astronaut that we have here, but at the end, he's just a human, like all of us. That's it. And he might be a good role model for men.
Yes.
But
and for some girls as well, of course. I mean, it's always for both. I mean, but it's just different if you have more from both sides. So, yeah.
I would like to ask you one final question, and if there's no other question from our audience, then it will be really our final one. And that's a question I asked most of my guests. What can the civil society do to shape our future on that planet? Because we only have this one.
But that's not a short question, right?
The question was short. The answer
the answer is not so short. Yeah. No, there's a lot we can do to improve. I mean,
no, but
again,
our call is here. I mean,
yeah. No, I'm not coming.
Okay, I just want to give you some more time to
No.
say. But I mean, start off with the topic today, how to empower women. I think that is part of that, how we can shape, or we as a civil society have to shape our future.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's clear. I mean, first of all, what I would like to achieve is, equality on all areas, and that we don't have to fight for it anymore, and that we don't have even to talk about it anymore. I mean, that was already the goal when we founded Women in Aerospace. We always hoped that at some point we wouldn't have to talk about that subject anymore, and it would just be normal that we have the same amount of men and women on all levels and everywhere. But at the same time, there's a lot of housekeeping we have to do on that planet, which we didn't do right in the past. And I think for a lot of it, we need spaceflight for, because we need the data from space, but we also need the knowledge that we have about the planet, the systems, the climate, the environment. And we need to realize that we are all astronauts on that planet, and we're actually part of the universe. And we just have that one planet right now to live on, and we should stop beating ourselves up and fighting for strange borders and religions and these type of things. And now comes the final word: live peaceful and in harmony on that planet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm afraid, Claudia, that we have to come to an end right now with our 33-minute format. Even so, I would enjoy continuing this inspiring talk with you, and I think that you inspired a number of our guests here, as we have seen it in the comments and in the chat. But be sure that we will follow up with the topic you raised in our future space cafes and in our magazine in general. So, there's a very busy lineup of very cool special events in the queue for you. And in 2 days, on the 3rd of December, Moriba will rock the floor again. So my good friend Moriba will run his Space Café Moriba's Vox Populi, determining normal behavior and developing the norms of behaviors in space. And his guests will be, as mentioned before, 4 women: Jenny Tapio, Susan Helms, an astronaut, Regina Pelzus, a German, Charity Whedon, and Thomas Schildknecht, and expect something really big. And a week later, on the 10th of December, we will launch our first Space Café Summit, Anarchy in Space? Question mark. A top-level discussion with Professor Schrogel and Dorina Antoni about space security. That's another event you will talk about later on. Believe me, will be quite good. And my next Space Cafés. So next week, I will talk with Professor Stefan Hobe about the future design of the legal order for human activities in outer space. That is, as we all know, a very hot topic discussed these days, in Days of Artemis especially. And on the 15th of December, I will talk with Martin Coleman about space debris, Vision 2020, even as a review for the 2020 activities. And this will be then our last Space Café in 2020. We will make a short break with our Space Cafés, but we will be back on the 5th of January with another exciting guest. All events are online on Eventbrite. And as always, we would like to hear from you, your feedback. So please check in with us on Twitter, on Facebook, or LinkedIn. Don't forget to sign up for our daily and our bi-weekly newsletters. So the next bi-weekly newsletter comes out on Thursday this week. And if you like to treat yourself with something special, become a Space Watcher today. Your support will help us continue our journalism for the news and these kind of web talks. Take your credit card and visit our fan shop at shop.SpaceWatch.Global. And I know I repeat myself, but we do need your support to keep on doing what we do for you. Did I mention it will be Cyber Week again? And as you see here, also this code for the upcoming week. Thank you all very much for your interest, and thank you, Claudia, very much for this very interesting and inspiring talk today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Torsten. It's a great show to be on. I will follow the next ones as well.
We do our best. And thanks again to the entire team behind the scene and to doing this great job week by week again. I hope you all will stay safe and stay healthy. And thanks for joining us. Hope to see you later this week and next week. In the meantime, visit our website and follow us on social media. Don't forget, become a space watcher. I can just that you see that I am a space watcher. Thank you very much. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.